Jordan Peterson is a really, really interesting character. I don't know how many of you guys have watched his stuff online. I've seen quite a bit of his stuff online. As a general rule, I don't agree with him politically, usually. Like, he seems to be like a right-leaning guy, I would say. Overall, I think he leans right. But outside of his politics being not great, in my opinion, I think his psychology stuff is actually pretty good. And I'm somebody who's been interested in psychology my entire life. I almost majored in psychology. I decided at the last minute, obviously, to do political science, but I was always very, very interested in psychology. The only thing that turned me off to really majoring in it is this course that was called Statistics in Psychology, and it's just math, and I am the biggest moron on the planet. In a number of ways, I'm the biggest moron on the planet, but I'm the biggest moron on the planet specifically when it comes to math. Like, I'm really, really bad at math. It's abysmal. It's like crazy how bad I am at math. But anyway, so that class was so hard that I was literally like, I will not be able to pass this class. It's so difficult. I now have to drop psychology as my major because I'll never get through this class. And I needed that class to get a major in psychology. So anyway, I'm going off on a personal tangent here. It's totally irrelevant. But the fact of the matter is, when I listen to Jordan Peterson's stuff on psychology, it's actually very interesting because he likes to loop in, like, he believes Carl Jung, a lot of his stuff he likes, and he talks about that, and he'll bring in other psychologists with different schools of thought, whether it's Freud or whoever, and he knows what they all taught and what they all believed, and he can kind of bring it all together and talk about his own sort of psychological philosophy, and it's interesting. It's interesting. So again, his politics, I don't agree with. I haven't heard him talk too much specifically about politics, but when he does talk about politics, it does strike me that he leans right. But the psychology stuff, he's not bad at all. But anyway, so he just went through a really, really rough period in his life where he got addicted to benzos, and then, you know, he ended up in Russia trying to get treatment for the benzo addiction, and his daughter was with him, and his daughter's a weird character to say the least, and this is crazy. He was on an all-meat diet, and I think he still might be. He was literally eating nothing but steak. It was like steak and, what else was it? Steak and like salt on the steak, or I don't know. It's like the all-meat diet. Very weird, very weird. I think most, nutrition experts would say that is not a healthy thing to do. But between the benzo addiction and probably the diet had something to do with it, he was in trouble. And so he almost died in some facility in Russia. And recently he, came out of a coma, and he's just reappearing now. Now listen, there really is a deep, deep irony in like this guy being a number one self-help guy. Like he 12 Rules for Life was his book, and it was a giant bestseller, and he toured the world, and he got super famous over a short period of time. And to go from 12 rules and like, this is how you should live your life, let me help you out, I'll be a self-help guru, and it looks like he's got all of his shit together, to like, actually not only does he not have his shit together, he almost died because it was so not together. There is a deep irony there, and I don't say this to celebrate in his personal struggles at all. I wish him the best. I wish everybody the best. I don't want anybody to go through something like that. I think it really is, it's torturous, and I feel nothing but sympathy for him. But there is an irony in like, here's my self-help stuff, and I need it myself, and I'm not abiding by this and living by this, and I'm in trouble. There's a deep irony there. So anyway, he comes out of this coma, and then now they're selling a book again. Jordan Peterson selling a new book. It's called like 12 More Rules or something like that. And I think his daughter probably had a lot to do with it and putting it together. Who knows if they're even from him, to be honest. When did he have time to come up with this? Was it when he was in his coma? Like, I say this seriously, I don't know. When did you have time to make this book? And do you not see the irony of like, you're going through immense personal demons and struggles, and you're going to tell other people how to live? Like, you should sort of take your own advice and clean up your own room first, metaphorically speaking, right? By the way, I just realized I have the student loan debt thing over my shoulder when I needed that. Okay, there we go. So, but when this book was released, scandal, controversy, here's what happened. Staff at Jordan Peterson's publisher protest new book plans. Penguin Random House Canada's plans to publish a new work by the professor against political correctness has repeatedly prompted numerous complaints. The announcement of a new book from Canadian psychologist Jordan Peterson, the self-styled professor against political correctness, has prompted dozens of complaints from staff at his publisher in Canada, according to a report. Vice's story on Tuesday said that the announcement of Peterson's forthcoming Beyond Order 12 More Rules for Life, a follow-up to his global bestseller 12 Rules for Life, prompted several staff at Penguin Random House to confront management. Peterson's views on the subject, including transgender rights, gender, and race, have been controversial. Last year, Cambridge University rescinded its offer of a visiting fellowship to Peterson following criticism from faculty and students. Also in 2019, 12 Rules for Life was temporarily pulled from sale in New Zealand, in a New Zealand book chain after the terrorist attack on a Christchurch mosque over perceived links between Peterson's fan base and Islamophobia. At Penguin Random House Canada Town Hall meeting on Monday, one employee told Vice people were crying about how Jordan Peterson has affected their lives. PRH Canada's Diversity and Inclusion Committee reportedly received at least 70 anonymous messages about Peterson's book from staff, with only a couple in favor of the decision to publish. So, this is amazing to me, because they're literally just saying, like, I don't like him, so don't publish the book. And by the way, yes, he has weighed in quite a bit on the issue of transgender rights. He very famously said, I'm not going to abide by Canada forcing us to use the gender pronouns that people prefer. There was some sort of rule, either from the Canadian government or from the school he was teaching at, that compels them to use the proper pronouns for transgender people. And he was so offended at the fact that they codified it that he was like, I need to stand up against this because you can't like control language like this, basically was his argument. Now, funny enough, he did go on to say, when asked, would you call a trans person by the pronoun they want? He's like, yes, I would. So it's weird because he's saying, my objection is at the fact that they codified it, that the government codified it, or that the school codified it, because that he says that's against freedom of speech. And even though he thinks I have the right to not call people by their preferred pronoun, I wouldn't actually do it. If a trans person came up to me and said, hey, call me X, I would call them X. That's what he says. So, but anyway, listen, as far as I could tell, other than the trans issue, when it comes to gender and race and Islam, I haven't seen him talk almost at all about any of that. Have you? And again, this is coming from me. Politically, Jordan and I wouldn't see eye to eye. Probably at all. There's a lot of disagreements we'd have, I'm sure, because most of the stuff I've heard him say politically leans right. But I haven't really heard him say anything about gender, anything about race. He used to be big talking about the transgender rights issue for exactly what I described. But people are saying, they're protesting and saying, don't publish this book because of his opinions on those issues, which, by the way, I don't even think he touches on in the book, because it's about 12 more rules for life. Again, there's a deep irony in him going through personal struggles and demons and then giving other people advice. I think that's really weird. So, but yeah, I mean, I feel like this is people becoming the caricature of the censorious lefty. You know what I mean? Like, just let the book be published. And really, you're turning him into a victim, because then he would actually be a victim if you force them not to publish his book. Now, you could say, he could just go to another, book publisher. But what if, if you use the principle of universality here, then what you're saying is it's okay if every publisher does the same thing. I wouldn't have a problem with it morally or ethically if every publisher is like, no, I don't like him, or my workers don't like him, so let's not allow the book to be published. I don't like that, man. And if you can't see the problem with this as a matter of principle, you can't see 2 inches in front of your nose. Because the fact of the matter is, it started with Alex Jones, then you get Jordan Peterson, and it's just they're gonna keep moving the goalposts, and then eventually it's me. Eventually it's the Chapo Trap House guys. Eventually it's some communist or Marxist who you really love. Because again, everybody thinks their own opinions are common sense, but they're not. There are a lot of people who disagree with you vehemently and would censor you if given the opportunity. So I just say, let's not open this door to this kind of censorship. I don't agree with Jordan Peterson politically. I'm sure I never read 12 Rules for Life, and I'm not going to read this new one either. I'm sure, some of it I might agree with, but a lot of it I probably won't agree with. It's not the point. The point is, I don't know why people feel this urge to be censorious, even for insane, like you could still buy Mein Kampf, which was from the mind of the biggest genocidal maniac in history. You should be free to buy Mein Kampf and read it. So if we're going to allow Hitler to be published, why the hell would we not allow Jordan Peterson, who's anywhere near a guy like Hitler? Why would you take that off? It's just, no, this is almost literally modern day book burning. Let it be published, and then you could read it, and you could hate it or not hate it, and you could trash talk him all day if you want. That's called freedom as well. So go ahead and trash talk him all day, but I just think it's messed up. There's no reason to make him a victim, and there's no reason to be censorious. Let people publish stuff. There's going to be published stuff on the far left and the far right. It's always going to exist. Your petty tantrum to try to override that is just that. It's a petty tantrum. And it looks really silly. So anyway, I hope he gets better. And I will never get over how weird it is that this book is being published when he's going through probably struggles that are in the top 1% of terrible struggles for people. But anyway, I hope he gets better.